The status bar at the bottom of the AutoCAD screen controls lots of different settings that you utilize to draw in AutoCAD. So if we look right down here, bottom left corner, you can see our coordinate readout there. I'm just moving the little arrow across it there, the little pointer, and as I come into the drawing area and move the crosshair around, you'll notice those coordinates change based on the position of the crosshair. So if I hover there on that corner there, of that object there, you can see there's a coordinate readout, roughly speaking, of the corner of that object there. As I come around, you can see the coordinates change. Now, different settings on the status bar. I have here my drafting settings. So I have infer constraints, I have here snap mode, and also grid display. If I click on grid, the grid appears on the screen. And if I zoom in a bit closer on this 3D solid here, for example, you'll see that that is sitting exactly on a grid. Can you see that there? So if I switch snap on, that then allows me to snap to that grid. Can you see that? And notice the coordinate readout there is now reading exactly 1000, 1000. That's because that grid point is 1000, 1000, and the 3D solid is placed that left-hand corner at 1000, 1000 also. If I go over here, you'll notice this corner is also an exact coordinate grid of 1500, 1200. So you can see there that you can utilize your grid and your snap to draw objects. Let me show you what I mean. I might want to place a rectangle just in this area here. So I go up to the Home tab, Draw panel, and click on Rectangle here. Come into the drawing area, and as you can see now, I can just snap to the grid, click, go to the grid again, and click, like so. And there's my rectangle. It's drawn, it's done, it's ready. Now, if I switch snap and grid off and try and do that, watch. I'll just click on the rectangle, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete that now. Clicked on the delete key on the keyboard there. Now, let's switch those off. So let's switch snap and grid off. Now let's try and draw that rectangle. If I try and draw it now, freehand, there's no way I can get that exact. It's physically impossible unless I type in the coordinates or the actual physical size of that rectangle. So that's how useful that status bar is to you. Let's just clear that rectangle. I'll select it and hit delete on the keyboard. I'm just going to roll back on the wheel a little bit there and pan so that I can see what's going on. Now here I also have ortho mode and I also have polar tracking. There's polar there. Notice on the command line, polar off, click on it again, polar on. If I click on ortho on, it automatically switches polar off. Why is that? You cannot run ortho and polar at the same time. They do similar things. So if I run polar there and I want to draw a line, let's say from the midpoint of that line there to the midpoint of that line there, or I just want to draw from the midpoint all the way through, let's say. I go to the Home tab, I click on the line command, and again, because I've got polar switched on the status bar, when I click here on that midpoint snap and draw across, can you see the polar tracking kick in as I go right through? See the 0 degrees there, and it says polar 2649.3004 at 0 degrees. Now I can actually type a distance in the distance box there of 2500 and press enter again to close the line command. That line is exactly 2500 long. But I could not have done that if the polar tracking had not been switched on the status bar. So as you can see, the settings on the status bar are important. You make sure that they're set to what you want to do while you're drafting in your AutoCAD drawing area. There are lots of other tools on the status bar. We've seen some of them previously. You've got here workspace switching, for example. And what you've also got here as well, if we look down at the bottom, we've also got the locking of toolbars and panels as well. So you can see there's lots of different ways and means of utilizing your status bar in AutoCAD.